Meet Me in London. Book by Georgia Toffolo. Chapter 12. The traffic edged slowly along the road as Victoria slipped and slid. With Oliver on the sleety pavement, her feet kept disappearing from under her, and more than once she had to grab him to keep upright.
Seemed she was doing that a lot today.
It didn't help that sensual overload made her legs like jelly. It was a beautiful clear night, a silvery full moon hovering low over the city, with a shimmer around it as if its edges were leaking into the sky. Look at that. It's a stunning evening. It is. His neck tilted as he looked upwards. But that is damn near my favorite color. Finally, he decides.
Check.
Another thing ticked off the list. Her heart was pounding. She'd told him far too much about herself, droned on about her past, leaving her feeling vulnerable and yet strangely animated. Something about his gentle questioning had made her feel safe in a way she hadn't felt when talking to others about the crash. He'd pushed her to say what she was feeling, and instead of clamming up, she'd taken a risk, and it hadn't backfired. He hadn't laughed, in fact, the opposite. He'd bolstered her, made her feel as if she could take on the world. She curled her hands into fists against the cold, stuck them into her pockets, but the fabric snagged on something, her engagement ring.
Wow.
It had been one hell of an intense afternoon. Engaged. Brutal. Honesty about her deepest fears. Sadness at her memories. Then hope. Shiny, happy hope that made her heart light for the first time in years. And a hug that had felt so warm and comforting. Safe and loving.
And
he'd held on too, as if he didn't want to let her go. Ollie was more than a businessman. He had a heart that was aching to share, and she felt he was
starting to do that.
She'd let him into her world, but he was breaking down. Some barriers of his own too. The kiss might not have been real, but the friendship they were developing was, and that was something new. If at the end of it all she came out with Ollie as a friend, then she'd be halfway to happy. Perhaps she could relax a little more into this and see where it took them. After all, there couldn't be a future, but there could be a present. She didn't have to tell him everything, but she could explore what they could give each other for now. She glanced at him now as he strode along, determined to keep upright. The tenderness of a few minutes ago hardening into professional mode the closer he got to work. He was a man of many sides, Oliver Russell. Mostly, he saw the best part of her and shaped it into something better. A catwalk. With her name on it. Her heart skipped to the rhythm of their hurried steps. He walked her up the marble steps as if it was perfectly natural for them to be together. All heads turned as the doors swung open, and right there in a huddle of chatter and discussion were Aziz and his sons, and Jacob and Alexander from the bakery on the corner, along with many other familiar faces from her street. And, to her dismay, Andrew, who was talking to a group of workmen.
Great.
Let the acting commence. She nodded her greeting and walked into the huge room, her senses suddenly assaulted by the wonderful smell of pine mixed with the expensive perfumes that staff were putting onto shelves. Then she stopped and stared at the incredible fir tree in the corner and
took a breath.
Wow, Ollie, you said it was going to be big, but I didn't expect this. I like the element of surprise. He grinned, clearly proud at how far the fit-out had progressed under his leadership. The tree skimmed the midnight blue ceiling and was decorated in swaths of silver tinsel and silver decorations, large, sparkly baubles with pictures of the Russell and Company stores around Europe. Newcastle, Paris, Manchester, Prague, Berlin, Edinburgh, Dublin, and one for here, where she was standing, the flagship shop he was responsible for. Underneath the tree were piles of gifts of all shapes and sizes, all ready for excited children and adults alike. How long to go? 10 days.
9?
She had her work cut out to get everything completed in time, but not as much as Oliver. Some shelves were stocked, but some weren't even built yet. There were wires still hanging from the walls, and from here she could see straight up the escalator cavity through the glass panels lining the second floor, and it was all in darkness. But they had decorations down here and some stock. That was
Something.
a grand entrance at least. Hey, Oliver said as he edged in next to her in the huddle of goppers. Look up. Why? Oh. She did as she was told, and suddenly thousands of tiny white lights strung across a midnight blue ceiling flickered on, like myriad twinkling stars. It's beautiful. Christmas was hurtling fast towards them, as was the opening, the
Show.
and the end. We got here just at the right time. Testing the lighting. We want to iron out any issues in good time. The last thing we need is a fire or a blackout on opening day. He gave a thumbs up to a man in a hard hat at the top of the escalator in the middle of the floor. The guy nodded and spoke into a radio. Within seconds, the fairy lights were snuffed out and normal strip lighting resumed, to a chorus of no's and groans. Then Oliver took command of the meeting. Right. Gather round. Everyone. I'm delighted you've all made a commitment to what I believe is going to be a great day for all involved. Let me run through the plan.
We
Have a brass band starting at 10 o'clock, playing Christmas carols and repeating again at 12, 2, and 5. The Santa Claus Grotto will be on the third floor in front of the toy department. That should mean any excitable children will be whisked up there and return tired and hungry too.
You.
I've hired Swiss-style wooden stalls for each of you, creating a village atmosphere here in the middle of the atrium. I think it's important we have you all together. Jewelry and gift items can be down. Vicky, a voice in her ear, one she knew too well and made her gut go into free fall at the memories. She turned and came face to face with Peter. Hello. He nodded.
No smile.
Surprised to see you here. Given this whole thing had been prompted by her, although she didn't expect him to know that or to get thanks for it. She did, however, remember to twist the engagement ring round so the beautiful diamond wasn't advertising her recent agreement with Oliver. I'm helping on the day with the fashion show. Where will you be?
Men's.
Second floor. There isn't an in-store alterations here, so the aim is for menswear to funnel any alterations over to me across the road.
I'm
hoping that while I have their attention, I can interest them in some quality handmade suits instead of the off-the-rack ones here. Of course he would. And why not? This was business, after all. Although, judging by the suits she'd seen Oliver, where she imagined Russell and company only dealt in quality. Great idea. But Peter was still catching up.
Wait.
What fashion show? I don't know anything about it. It's nothing really. Her heart hammered. She really did not want to get into this here, or ever actually not with Peter. Why did she always feel like she had to tone things down with him? As if he was always somehow better than she was, more deserving? Oliver would never treat her like that. She lifted her chin and looked her ex straight in the eyes. We're putting a show on for my students. And me. You're having a catwalk here? You? Oliver had taken the food stall owners over to the back wall to discuss electricity logistics, so that left just a few stragglers here. She watched Oliver gesticulating, talking, laughing, and giving each person he interacted with his time and consideration. Unlike Peter, who just wanted to feel
superior.
What would she tell her students in a situation like this? Own it. Never let anyone make you feel inferior. She lifted her chin and looked him directly in the eyes. Yes, Peter. I'm showing my designs here on opening
day.
In fact, my bridal collection is going to be the finale. His mouth moved, but no sound came out. Certainly, no congratulations. I presume it's only women's wear designs, he managed, having gone from looking pleased with himself to the unattractive color of envy. His voice rose, and he shook his head. Typical. I could have made good use of that. Is there a problem? Andrew, who had been watching the interaction, stalked over. Not at all. I was just telling Peter about the catwalk.
Oh.
Oliver's little sideshow. There was derision in Andrew's demeanor. I assume you're to blame for that?
What?
It's a fabulous idea. The girls are so excited. It has disaster written all over it. Shaking his head, he turned to Peter and stuck out his hand. Andrew Russell. Russell? As in this place. Suddenly Peter's shoulders went back and he found a smile. Avaricious. Good to meet you.
I'm Peter Swain.
Taylor from across the road. Great to have the big guns on our street. Hope you're settling in.
What?
He'd been shouting his mouth off about the Russell and Company development since planning permission was given. Andrew nodded, ironing out a few kinks, but otherwise all going to plan. For the opening, Victoria felt extremely protective of Oliver. He was ironing out the kinks that Andrew had put there, and now taking all the credit, and clearly winning Peter on side. Her ex leaned towards Andrew. I have some ideas I'd like to run by you. If you're free for a pint after this. Don't tell me you're interested in the fashion show too? Andrew almost spat the last few words out. Because that's not my department. Peter shook his head. I don't need that kind of publicity. I have enough business to keep me more than busy. Then why are you here? Just something I think could be of mutual benefit. She couldn't believe how much bluster and self-importance these two men had. Well, I think it's going to be a fabulous opportunity. The whole day is going to bring in lots of attention for us all. She pointed over to Oliver and the rest of the group. Look, the stalls are in a perfect place for maximum footfall. This store is a destination shop bringing people in from all over, and when they're here, they'll hopefully explore everything the street has to offer. It's a win-win for everyone. Now she was sounding like the Russell PR machine. Nice ring. Andrew's lip curled as he stared at her hand. It wasn't a compliment, it was an accusation. Oh,
Damn.
it had twisted back and was now on full show. She couldn't exactly hide it again. Damn her stupid, wild gesticulating. Yes. Nana Norma's. Andrew was looking at her expectantly.
Was it?
Had Oliver even mentioned his grandmother's name?
She
Couldn't remember. She'd been so distracted by the on-one-knee gesture she hadn't paid much attention. Yes. Oliver did tell you about her, didn't he?
Oh, Victoria Injalv.
There was clearly a family story here that she surely would have heard if she'd known Oliver in the deeper, truly in love sense. Was Andrew trying to trick her into admitting she didn't know enough about Oliver to be engaged to him? Note to self, ask about Nana.
Norma.
Vicky, you're engaged. She breathed out. Never, ever had she been grateful for Peter liking the sound of his own voice. Until now. Yes. Reluctantly, she held her finger up to save him bending and peering. I am. To the other Russell guy? Yes. She knew her eyes were darting from Andrew to Peter, while she wished the world would stop and she could slide off and hide. She willed herself to slow down. Being engaged to Oliver was something she would be proud of. Oliver. Oliver Russell. Did he have a middle name? Should she know about that too before anyone asked her? That was quick. Tugging at his goatee beard, Peter looked over to Andrew. Your brother? Cousin. Andrew's expression had turned dark. Older by 2 years, so he gets first pick of everything. Right, Victoria? I wouldn't know.
Wow.
Talk about a family feud. How did Oliver surmount this kind of hostility on a daily basis? But he works hard.
Long
hours. We all do. He doesn't have a monopoly on that. That was the crux of the matter. Andrew worked hard too, he just didn't always get it right the first time. Or the second, according to Oliver.
And in
a global business like this, everything needed to be right. He was simmering. Because he felt he deserved reward, not sidelining. Looking beyond Andrew's shoulder, she saw Oliver watching the two. Conversation. Occasionally, one would look up towards Oliver, or her.
And
then they'd chat again. A shiver skittled down her back. Talk about feeling like you're the subject of gossip. It looks like an interesting combination. My cousin, your ex. A match. Made in hell. Not sure I approve. But she didn't care. They could elope together for all she was concerned. If it means they're both off my back, then they can have each other. I hope. They're very happy. Sadly, I'm not sure I can ever use the words happy and Andrew in the same sentence. He's always been in competition with me, ever since we were kids. Don't know why, and I've never encouraged it. We just never hit it off, and now I've been promoted over him. He's worse than ever. They stepped off the escalator and walked through the semi-darkness past empty concession stands. Voices wafted upwards from below, but essentially they were all alone up here. It was a cavernous space, but eerie and intimate at the same time. I'm thinking we'll put the catwalk across here. Ollie paced out a long, diagonal line. I've arranged for a runway that's about 30 feet long. We'll have chairs either side. The models can start over at the back as it's nearest the changing rooms. You're going to have to sort out the timing and the music. I wouldn't dare suggest anything that wasn't pung or mint. She laughed. You've really put a lot of time and thought into this. Honestly, thank you so much. But yes, leave the music to the students. The first thing Oliver thought of. He had her.
Yes.
She knew it. He had her. Captivated. Had her aching to spend time with him. Aching to kiss him. Again. The fact that you're older and the favorite. That you're fixing his
mess.
And that you gave me his grandmother's ring. He actually said that. If he has a problem, then he can take it up with
me, not you.
We share a grandmother. She wasn't only his. The ring was passed down to me from my father, from his mother.
And it will be passed
down to my kids, and then on through the next generations of Russells. His kids. Victoria's blood slowed. He assumed it was just going to happen, that in his future was a family, that it was as easy as that. And it wasn't. She more than anyone knew that. The thought of having a baby with him, how their child might have looked, pricked at her, rubbed at the wound she'd thought was healed. And suddenly here she was, reeling from the loss of a family sometime in the future, all over again.
Okay.
Should she tell him everything?
No.
It didn't matter. It wasn't as if her infertility was ever going to affect him. She reminded herself that this was a friendship and nothing more, and she didn't need to parade her imperfections in front of him. Tell me the story of Nana Norma. The mention of the name brought a smile to Oliver's face. Andrew talked about her? He seemed to expect that I knew all about her. Oliver leaned against a railing opposite a white plinth where she imagined a mannequin would be advertising some upmarket clothing brand. In a few days' time, I would have told you eventually, you can't be in this family and not know about Nana Norma. She was a firecracker of a woman. She had a backbone of steel, but a huge capacity to love, too.
She flew
Spitfires in the Second World War, and by all accounts had some hairy near misses. There's a story about her working with the resistance in France, although I don't know if that's just exaggeration. She sounds amazing. She was. After the war, she met my grandfather, fell in love, and had 2 sons. Judging by the look on Ollie's face, Nana Norma had captured everyone's hearts. But she had so much energy that looking after a family wasn't enough to keep her busy, so she went to work for Russell and Company. It had been Russell and Sons until that point, but she made grandfather change it in case they had daughters. And because no matter what Grandpa thought, she was pretty much at the helm, he didn't make any decisions without consulting with her first. Go, Norma. Victoria did a fist pump. Oliver laughed, low and deep. She was formidable, all right, but all I remember is a little old lady. Yes, she was tiny, who swore like a trooper, chain-smoked, and drank whiskey over 1 cube of ice. Never 2. She used to sing the old war songs as lullabies. She told me she'd flown those
planes for me.
For my future. She'd put her life on the line for children and grandchildren she hadn't even had. Hell, have you any idea how that feels? To have someone love you like that before you're even born. I get pretty close with my parents. Sometimes I complain that they're overprotective, but it's their way of saying I love you. That's what it's about, right? His eyes burned with belief.
Forever. The
Future. Love. He said it almost as if the concept was foreign to him.
had.
He never fallen? Never spent sleepless nights thinking about someone's caress or a kiss? Had he never planned a future with someone else? He scuffed his shoe on a floor tile as he spoke. My parents have it.
My
Nana Norma and Grandpa had it. Back then they didn't know if they'd survive the war, so they learned to live fully, love deeply and fiercely.
they
New life was precious, and that love is a gift you grab when you get the
chance.
They spent 50 years together. He wanted it so badly, she could see, but he'd never found it.
His
Successful, powerful family had shown him a bar so high he doubted he could do it justice. What if he bet on the wrong woman and the Russell ideal came tumbling down? What if he destroyed what his family had created? She realized that was why he'd asked her to do this. So he didn't have to give himself wholly to another person who might not fit the Russell ideal. Was he ever going to take a risk on love, or was he going to keep on pretending his whole life? She didn't know. She wanted to know everything about him and the Russell history. Do you think you'll ever find it? I haven't been looking. He shrugged. No one's held my interest long enough to think of a future with them. You've been dating the wrong women then. He turned to her and gave her a look she couldn't read clearly. So, what would you look for in a potential wife? Although really she didn't want to know, because then she'd compare herself to his ideal woman. And she knew she'd come out lacking. His eyes narrowed. I don't know, Victoria. That's exactly why I needed you to help me out. At least he hadn't said tall and blonde and clever with spreadsheets.
that
Was probably the kind of woman he'd fall for. A peer in his field.
a
Beautiful peer. Her chest constricted at the thought of him being with another woman, even though she knew it would inevitably happen. One day she'd open the gossip pages and see his wedding photographs. He'd find someone who held his interest far more than she did, or could, and a part of her heart would shrivel up. But then, after this, won't your mother be on your back again? Pressuring you to settle. I don't want to just settle. That's the point. He scuffed his hand over his
hair.
I'm just buying more time, that's all. Settle down, I was going to say. Even Nana Norma did that.
Victoria
Leaned against the railing next to him, feeling the warmth and strength of his body next to hers. Her arm brushed against his, and she didn't flinch away, wanting the feel of his skin on hers to linger just a little longer. All her nerve endings fired, and she felt dizzy with a sudden need to be closer to him, and closer still. Behind them was nothing but air, and a long way down to the ground
floor.
The building was magnificent, a legacy to his family. But she wasn't thinking about the Russell family and its past, she was thinking about now. Here, so close to him, his aftershave scent wove around her like smoke, making her belly contract, her breath stall in her chest. She held on to the railing to steady herself. I wish I could have met Nana Norma. She sounds extraordinary. Legend has it she was a ruthless businesswoman, and it's thanks to her that we expanded the way we did when rationing came to an end and people had more cash in their pockets. But it must have been pretty dull running a retail business after all that excitement in the war. Oh, I don't know. Not if her husband was like you. I reckon there's plenty to be excited about.
Arg.
She realized how that might sound like a woeful attempt at flirting. I mean, it must be a fascinating business. It is, V. He cracked a cheeky smile as he twisted to face her interest in his eyes. So, yes, he thought she was flirting. There's never a quiet day. He'd used her nickname. Her chest flooded with warmth. Oh well? He laughed. No way, Ollie is fine. Or Oliver. Never OL. The noise level below was receding. People were leaving. The workmen had downed tools and disappeared. And here they were, suddenly alone. Do you have a middle name, Ollie? I can't believe we've got this far.
Before we talk about this.
But at least it's something else I can tick off the list of things I need to know for your mother. Edward, after my grandfather. I like it. Regal. Like Victoria. Middle name? Elizabeth. I think my parents were covering all possible future queen options. Although, sadly, I missed my chance with William and Harry. Still, always good to have goals. His eyes lit up and he gave a very regal bow. Your Majesty. Idiot. She gently hit his arm and was rewarded with a smile that was at once mischievous and deliciously heated. He shifted a little closer to her, and that simple movement caused a riot of excitement inside her.
A
tantalizing thrill of anticipation. Was he going to touch her?
Should she
touch him? But he made the connection first, the brush of his fingers on her cheek.
A
light touch that had the tiny hairs on her body standing to attention and heat, pooling deep in her gut. His eyes locked onto hers. Do you like being called V?
Totally.
The pathetic truth was, she'd liked it more when he'd called
her my Victoria.
Victoria's a bit of a mouthful, but Mum and Dad were determined to keep it the full Monty long-winded name and never once called me anything different. The girls call me V. You can too. Just never. Vicky. She shuddered at the thought of Peter and the way he whined her
name.
If you were to choose, which would you prefer? He hadn't taken his eyes off her, and the chemistry between them was becoming off the scale. Hot as his fingers trailed to the back of her neck. Pretty sure I like Norma best of all now. That wouldn't work for me. He stepped even closer. Not sure I can. Kiss a Norma the way I want to kiss you. That just wouldn't be right. His laughter faded, and a seriousness took over. Dangerous intent flickered in his eyes. Her mouth went dry and wet at the same time. He wanted to kiss her. Desire spiraled through her sharp and intense. You can't. Not here. At your apartment, then? Or my house? Somewhere, damn it.
Victoria, anywhere.
He closed the distance between them, squeezing his knee between her legs, capturing her against the railing. Her senses were so swamped by his touch, his scent, his lust-filled voice she could barely find words. I thought it was just an act. You said it. Was inspired. A great move. It was inspired, but I sure as hell wasn't acting. And I want to do it. Again.
Do you?
Her body flooded with urgent need. They could do it again. Right here, if they wanted. The whole place had fallen silent, but for the hum of electricity and the dulled traffic noise. They could kiss here, they could take it up to his office, to her bed. God, she wanted him in her bed so badly. To feel him naked beside her, on her and her. Just one night, just once. One perfect night with him. But then he'd see her scars. There would be questions.
Pity. Words.
Oh, why couldn't she just gloss over all that and kiss him hard? Forget the questions, forget overthinking. She looked up into his dark, mesmerizing eyes. He was still waiting for her answer. Did she want to kiss him again?
Yes, but no.
My head is all over the place with this, Ollie. Mine too. My body has a mind of its own. We can take it slow. Your speed. My speed is not even touching the ignition, Ollie. This was agonizing. The subdued light caught the tips of his hair, making them golden.
His eyes
burned with a stark need. The air was filled with his scent. There was nothing more she wanted now than to slide into his arms. The temptation was overwhelming and she was struggling to keep control. Truth was, she was utterly and completely lost in him. He brought her hand up and held it against his chest in a move that was almost unbearably chivalrous and tender. She could feel his heart hammering hard. V, is it me? Am I reading this wrong? The kiss was real.
I'm blown
away by the chemistry between us. Pretty sure you're feeling it too. She could barely find her voice. She'd never felt such a heightened connection to someone. Never known that having someone close enough to kiss, but not being able to, was such complete agony. Yes. Then why not? She should have moved away then and broken this deepening intimacy. But she didn't. I'm not looking for anything long-term. I'm not asking for 50 years or even 50 days. But you're the only woman I've ever met who's held my interest for me to want more. So, I'm asking for a few minutes, Victoria. Enough for another kiss. Enough to see where it might take us. She didn't know what to say. They'd agreed to always be honest with each other, and he was expecting that. But did she need to give him a full rundown of her injuries and an explanation of the long-term prognosis? That she wouldn't be able to give him the children he hoped for. That her belly had scars, faded and silvery, but still visible. For one more kiss?
No.
That would be attaching too much significance to what for him was probably only a fling, and for her couldn't ever be more than that. Besides, he'd lose interest in her in no time. The only maths she understood was working out her pattern measurements and fabric needs. But hell, another kiss? She'd give anything for that. In fact, it would be good to explore a relationship without worrying about any future. She'd never felt more turned on and more confused in her life. Her hand went to his chest, the soft linen of his work shirt under her fingers. His fingers curled round her ponytail and he tugged, letting her hair fall over her shoulders. He breathed in sharply and picked up a strand, let it flow through his fingers, then cupped her cheek. Beautiful. Oh, hell. She'd been thinking he was never going to take a risk, but she was the same. Stuck in an ever-decreasing cycle of fear of being rejected and hurt. But he wanted to kiss her. He'd just freaking well said it out loud. And she wanted to kiss him. And more. She wished she had the nerve of